gentlemen, here again we are in beautiful West Virginia. It just thrills me every time we have an opportunity to come to one of my favorite states. And we're very privileged again to have with us one of our favorite archaeologists, Robert Pyle. Robert, it's good to have you with us.
It's a pleasure to be.
We're located in Montague County in West Virginia. We're also at the Mason-Dixon Historical Park Museum. This is a site of the last monument placed by the Mason-Dixon survey in the 1760s. And this is Mr. Bill Hewitt, is the president of the Mason-Dixon organization here. And Bill?
Well, we are a jointly owned park, Pennsylvania and West Virginia, and we are very interested in the history of this area. And of course, this being Mason-Dixon Park, and it was one of the areas that when Mason and Dixon got here, at the top of the hill, they were told they had to stop for the Indians, and the original Mason-Dixon line ended at the top of Brown Hill here at the Mason-Dixon Park. And since the historical value of the park, we've been able to develop this into a family-oriented organization. We have many organizations that come here and participate in our many things that we do. For instance, we just had our Ramp Festival, which was very successful. We have the Dunkard Creek Summer Festival in August, and we have the Buckwheat Festival in October. The park is run jointly by the Greene County and Monongalia County Commissioners, and is owned by both counties. We are in the process of trying to develop a little more of the Greene County side of the park, and to make it fully a family-oriented park. So we enjoy being here and working here, and these wonderful people of West Virginia and Pennsylvania, and especially my friend Bob Powell here, who's done so much by developing this museum. And also we are in the process of getting a 2-story log cabin and being brought here to the park, and Bob been responsible for that, so that's going to be another feather in our cap. So we welcome everybody to our wonderful park here.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bill. I am really proud of what we have been able to do here, because it's quite an introduction to education. It allows not only the families but teachers too is to see what can work in education. And of course, as we all know, hands-on is a great learning experience. And that's what this museum is partly about too, is that we want those who come to be able to handle things, to be able to touch things, and if you sign the register, the guest register, you get a free trilobite cast. So this is a little animal that once lived a very long time ago, and I had learned real early on that if you want, again, for students to really learn, give them something to take home, and so that's what the museum does as well. So this is Mr. Thomas Morose. He's a geologist with the Department of Energy. I think I'll let him explain what he does. Tom?
Well, we've been involved with educational classes for quite a while, probably 10 or 12 years going back. And I was first introduced to Bob up at New Martinsville. And I was really impressed with some of the hands-on activities. And we asked him to contribute this same educational, these activities to the teachers of the area. Yeah. And the Department of Energy actually came up with some funding. And at one point, I think we had up to 30 teachers one summer.
Yes.
And Bob was directly involved with really helping us coordinate that activity. And some of the things you see on the table here are a few of the educational hands-on activities that we have for students, and they're also available to the teachers. I mainly give presentations on energy and energy-related activities. West Virginia being a big energy state with oil, coal, gas, we have a lot of contract activities ourselves here, so there are plenty of opportunities for us to share this with the educational community. And Bob and I have been very active in that. As you can see by a lot of the fossils and mineral specimens in the museum here, we have some drill bits, we have fossils, we have dig-it activities. Just some of the drill bits that I usually take along for display at some of the presentations I make. There's 2 diamond bits here. One of the main ways that geologists get samples to look at. The cores are sitting around here with some of the other mineral samples, but we've drilled about 38 wells in West Virginia, taking core samples with these types of bits and other samples, and a lot of them are on display here also. But I really like to thank Bob for getting me involved in the activities here, and I think he's done a fantastic job putting this museum together and a lot of the activities for the students. And I was hoping that we'd have some students here at some point in time.
We do.
We can actually show you some of the interest that's really generated by these activities.
Yes.
So,
well, thank you very much. Again, I think it's important for the students to be aware of the technologies that we do have. And again, as what Thomas has presented partly, gives them another insight as maybe thinking about career goals, what type of involvement they might be able to get to take part in. So this is the type, again, of education that I really do enjoy, and that is the hands-on, and we will have those students here very shortly. Okay, thank you.
the state of West Virginia is known for its energy resources, and I've got a few samples of some of the different types of rocks that we cut with the diamond core bits. The first one here is an oil shale. There's not very much of this in West Virginia, but this particular rock came from Colorado, and it also occurs in Kentucky. The oil on here is actually seeped out of this rock. There's about 40 gallons per ton of rock, and it's probably going to be a future energy resource. It costs quite a bit of money to get the oil out of the rock at this time. This rock, if you break it, will actually burn if you put a match to it. Then some of the more common rock types, we have the limestones, shales, and sandstones that the oil and gas deposits occur in. And then, of course, we've got coal beds that are embedded between these that also provide direct energy and also natural gas. The limestone here has got some anhydrite in it, or salts in it, showing where there were fossils. And this is actually where the oil gets trapped. You can see in this piece of limestone here, which is a coral fossil, all the dark material is oil. So the oil doesn't occur in very large openings in the rock. It's in all these small pores, so it's very difficult to get out. And then the source rock of a lot of the oil and gas are these shales. And this one's from West Virginia. As a matter of fact, it came from just north of Morgantown. This contains quite a bit of fossil material, and that's what causes the dark color in it. And it's a great source of gas in this area. And this particular specimen is just covered with small fish fossils, fish teeth and scales, but they're microscopic. And then the major gas rock or reservoir in this area is the sandstones. And this sample came from down in the southern part of the state, from 7,530 feet deep. I always like to tell the students that this is like a jar of marbles if you look at it under the microscope. It has about 30% air porosity in it, and that's where all the oil and gas gets trapped. Of course, all these samples, at least these round cores, were cut by the diamond bits. This one's a man-made diamond. These are all man-made GE diamonds on here. It's called a PDC bit. It's for cutting very soft materials such as the shales and the limestones. And then here we have a natural diamond bit. And all these are industrial diamonds in here. This is about a $30,000 bit. And it's used for cutting the harder materials like the sandstones. Then over here we have a conventional bit called a tricone. And this is the main bit used for drilling most of the wells in West Virginia, the oil and the gas wells. All it does is break the rock up into chips, and air or water passing through the bottom of the bit drive the material to surface. So most of the time as a geologist, I just have these small chips to look at. I don't have the fortune to get the cores all the time because they're quite expensive.
That's the way it is in science, is we just have mostly bits and pieces to look at. So,
right, and
that's like with our fossil dig here, as I tell the students, is that most of the time that's all a scientist has to look at is just a mere fragment. But I told him, I said, that shows that you're a good scientist if you can identify it.
I also find that they really enjoy looking at small fossils under the microscope too and identifying things.
Yeah, it is. It's really surprising that when the students are doing this fossil dig, that they pick out the smallest fragment within that dig, and it's just unbelievable. But they do focus in on those very, very small. So I guess their goal is to be a good scientist. So.
That's all part of the interest that these hands-on things generate.
Yeah, okay. This is Miss Joy Assad. She's a teacher at Carmichael's Elementary School in Carmichael's, Pennsylvania. Joy and I had worked together in the school for 3 years, and I think even longer than that. But Joy is a science teacher and has been very instrumental in bringing many hands-on and educational programs through grants to the students at Carmichael's. Joy and I presented, and I guess we were actually presenting the real first hands-on science program in Pennsylvania, so we certainly set a precedence within the state of Pennsylvania. So, Joy, would you like to?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit how I got the privilege to bring Bob Powell into my school district. I'd written a grant and awarded from the Eisenhower grant for teachers in Pennsylvania, and it allowed me to bring Bob in to work with my students. At that time I was teaching a hands-on science lab for kindergarten through 6th grade, and we had set the grant up to work with 5th and 6th graders. Mr. Powell would come in through the week, and we did fossil digging, and we built an Indian village. The children were so excited. I mean, this was their highlight of the week, to come and get to work with Mr. Powell and work in the Indian village and dig for the fossils. So it was really quite a pleasure and an honor to bring my students in there, and it still has carried through. I mean, they constantly ask me, when is Mr. Powell coming back in? You know that guy that had all those bones and those fossils? So when he comes into the school, he's well recognized by a lot of the students. Right now we're going to be working on a fossil dig, and I have some students here that I'd like to bring in, if it's okay, and we can get started right into the one part of the program. Sharing.
But do any of you recognize what this little cast is? A little animal?
A trilobite.
A trilobite, yeah. It's a little animal that lived a very long time ago. And this is a cast. So don't forget when you leave, or before you leave, to sign the register, because you get to keep a trilobite cast, something to take home, if you sign your name on the register, all right? You willing to do that? And if you already have one, sign your name again and give it to someone at home or a friend. All right? All right. Question? Well, we won't rule that out. We'll have to look at it just like the scientists would. They would look at it just like these bones that are on this table here. We'd have to look at these bones and study them and try to figure out what animal do these belong to? And how do they go together? And what's this big spine that's on here, this process? You know when you see an animal with all the little humps, especially like the camel with those big humps on its back? It's due to these processes which are projected in the back. It's like if you take your fingers and feel those little bumps in the back of your neck. For each one of those little bumps, there's a little vertebrae. And this is a vertebrae. One vertebrae. I think here in some of the displays we have a vertebrae from a whale, and it's about like this big. That's a really huge vertebrae. Okay. Ms. Saad?
Okay, so they're going to take their spoon and very gently, I want you to move through the fossils and see if you can find any fossils that look like the pictures that we have on the sheets next to you. Now, you may not find a whole fossil. You may only find a piece of a fossil. So if you see a line or a symbol or something that resembles one of these pictures, that's going to help you identify it. Oh, you already found something? What'd you find?
Tara, what you know?
Cool. What do you think it is over here? Great. What do you call that? Can you pronounce that? Brachiopod. Can you say that?
Brachiopod.
Yeah, those are just like little clams. Aren't that neat? Great.
He found a shark tooth already.
Oh, those are my
Show him your shark tooth, Jimmy.
favorites.
Sometimes you have to wipe a little bit of the dust because, girls and boys, no one has ever looked through this soil mix. No one has put anything in here for you to find. So everything that you do discover is truly yours. And think about it. These are things that once lived that are now stone. That's something to think about. I guess that's what sort of caught my attention in archaeology, paleontology.
Yes, very good.
Things that once lived, and when we find them in rocks, have turned to stone.
I think this is the
Okay. Have any questions? Anyone have any questions? Too busy discovering. All right.
Another one. Wow. What do you think this looks like? Which one of these? You think that looks like that? Yeah. Mr. Powell, you're our expert. What do you think this is? Which picture is this? Show Mr. Powell that.
Well, it's a... See the way the growth rings are that's on this?
Yeah.
Tells me that it's part of a clam shell. A large clam.
It's only a piece of it.
All right.
Which one of these does it look like?
Okay. Another one. That's a... Look at this here. This is a pelecypod piece. And number one... Oh, yeah. Janessa, I'm going to try to bury all your discoveries there. This pelecypod is... You can match up the fragment with the picture on the ID sheet. And this ID sheet is only a small representation of what you can find in this dig. But looking at the picture and the fragment that you have shows how much of that animal is actually missing. Okay. So, okay. Remember, put your discoveries inside of your bag because if you don't, I'm afraid they may get lost and you, again, will have to
I found something
try and find them.
You did. Let's match it up.
All right.
Let's match it up with an identification sheet.
How many of you like the bones?
Which one does
What do you think of the bones?
What do you think? Great.
They are neat.
Let's look at the top outs.
I thought you were. Okay.
Very nice.
All right.
Yes, sir.
It's another large shell fragment. Okay. Well, that's what you become when you're digging like this, is that you become experts because you have used your ID sheets and you have made discoveries. And what's that?
A baby tracks, I think.
I think so too. I think it's small enough to be. What's that, Sarah? What do you think it is?
Hey, shark tooth.
It sure looks like a shark tooth. And you have this ID sheet here that can help identify. See this sheet? Of course, we know there's none in there that big, right?
Take a look at that.
Or we would have taken it out when we first dipped the soil into these trays, right?
This, what do you think this
It's like,
looks like?
excuse me.
Look at the
It's like
design.
this large shark tooth. Now, there's none in your trays this size,
Can you
are
help
there?
him out?
I didn't think so.
Ah, good. Which one?
Okay.
It's part of an oyster, actually.
Yeah, Trey has really advanced into the field of paleontology and paleobotany as well. The plant fossils did quite well at some of the field trips that we've been on.
And what grade are you in?
I'm in 6th.
6th grade. I'd love for you to come to my school. Maybe Mr. Powell can bring you one day and you can come and talk to my class. They would love to hear this.
That's fine with me.
Ah, great.
It's okay.
Maybe all of them would like to tell what school they go to. Would you
Okay.
mind doing that real quickly?
How about telling
All right.
me what grade you're in?
Yeah.
How old you are? Okay.
I go to happy school.
You go to Happy School. How old are you?
5.
5. Are you enjoying yourself digging for fossils?
Uh-huh.
Good.
Okay.
Okay. What is your name?
Haley.
Haley. Nice to meet you, Haley. What's
I'm-
your last name?
Haley Donham.
Nice to meet you.
I feel
Michelle.
like I'm an expert.
You're an expert already. That's because of Mr. Powell's excellent teaching. That's why. And your name, honey?
Sarah.
Sarah.
I go to Woodburn Elementary School.
You do. Great. What grade are you in?
Kindergarten.
Oh, and how old are you?
6.
Wow. How are you enjoying your fossil dig?
Good.
Yeah. Are you finding any neat discoveries?
Yes.
Wow.
Whole bag full.
You are. You're very busy. Let's go over here. What is your name?
Jimmy Nicholson.
And you're from where?
Woodburn Elementary.
What grade are you in?
4th.
How old are you?
9.
Have you ever done anything like this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Where at?
My pappies.
Oh, bet he knows Mr. Powell. Huh? What is your neatest discovery you found today or any time you've ever dug in a fossil? What's your favorite?
Shark tooth.
Oh, they're my favorite
That's
too.
a sand.
Yeah.
That's this one, a barnacle.
Hi.
I'm Janessa Piles. I go to Morgantown High School. I'm working with Mr. Pyle in the mentorship program in archaeology.
Great. And what grade are you in?
I'm a senior in high school.
Oh, neat. Do you find this interesting too?
Yeah, I like it a lot.
It captivates ages from kindergarten all the way up through high school and even beyond, because look at me. And let's talk to this expert here.
My name's Trey Malik, and I go to BF Middle School.
A fossil bone.
I'm in 6th grade, and to Mr. Powell, I'm nicknamed Digger.
Is that right?
Yes.
You probably are one of his protege, I would say. By the way, do you share this with your other friends?
Yes, I do. Some are as interested as I am, and some they're not as interested, but I mean, they seem to like it, they like as a hobby. But I almost do it like all the time. It's like a job almost for me.
Like a love, isn't it?
Yes.
Tell me, what's your favorite thing that you've ever discovered?
Oh, probably a Pentromites. It's a flower pod. It's like a flower pod, and I find it at the foot of the Summit Mountain in Pennsylvania, where I live.
Wow.
Called a blastoid also, right?
Oh yes, blastoids. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, neat. Is that on the same fossil dig that we took my class to?
Yes, it was.
Fantastic.
Those are the ones you missed.
I know. You feel like you're just discovering all these fantastic things. Okay, could I turn you just a little bit? Hi.
My name is Josh Ammons, and I go to Mason-Dixon Elementary.
Let's lean forward a little bit.
Hey, that's another bump. Pay attention what you're doing. You want to drop it on.
And how old are you?
8,
8. What grade are you in?
3rd.
3rd. Wow. Are you enjoying yourself here?
Yeah.
Find any shark's teeth yet?
No.
Keep looking, because Mr. Powell promised he'd plant some of these. He says there's shark's teeth in every one of these, so
Yes, there is.
look real careful. Hi.
Hi. My name is Ashley White. I go to Mason-Dixon Elementary. I'm 10 years old, going to be 11 here soon,
Great.
and I'm in 5th grade.
Oh, man. This is my favorite grade to teach, you know that. And what are you finding here?
I found 2 shark's teeth
Oh, wow. 2?
and
Yeah.
some seashells, and that's about
Boy, it
it.
looks like you almost
Jeremy-
have a perfect specimen right here.
The shell.
What is that? Have you identified it? Why don't you take that out? Let's look on this sheet.
We also asked the students, I guess this is, we forgot to ask them to do this, is that we tell the students that if you find more than one shark tooth is to share it with someone. Keep the best one and share the other one with someone else in the classroom.
Almost the perfect.
Because sometimes one or two students may not find a shark tooth. But I think mostly it's just how closely that they're doing their excavation, because it's unbelievable the amount of teeth that are in this dig.
What is this specimen?
Yes, very good, Sarah.
Very
Shark
good.
tooth.
Excellent. You know, after you take these home with these identification sheets, you can get an index card and you can glue this specimen down and then write the name of it so you'll never forget what it is. Oh, wow, neat. You did find one. Hi, and your name? Let me go on this side.
Shane
Shane, what's your last name?
Ammons,
And where are you from?
Mason-Dixon Elementary,
What grade are you in?
5th.
My favorite grade. What do you find there? Anything neat?
I found a shark tooth.
What?
Look at this. That is really special.
Okay, those of you who want to continue digging, you may. We're going to move on to another part of the program, and really appreciate your participation. And again, whatever you did find in this dig was and is your discovery. So you may keep it, and if you want, if you even want to keep everything that's in that tray, just dump it in that bag and take it home. You may find someone there that may want to dig also. So.
Did you tell them that nobody's looked in this for how many years, Mr. Powell? That's pretty impressive.
I'd say for a very long time, millions of years of geologic time. That's one of the things as you're riding along interstate and you see all these different layers of rock. Think about those layers as pages of time, pages of history. If you take the time and look at each of those layers, it can tell you what life once was like, tell you what type of environment, whether it was hot, cold, whether there was any plants or what type of animals lived at that time. We have in this little time chart here, again, that represents the various rock formations and the various time periods. And in science, this is very important so that we can have a better understanding as to the way life once was.
Mr. Powell,
Okay.
what would our trilobite fall on that time chart if we were looking at it?
It goes down here to the Cambrian period. We have Precambrian, then we have Cambrian. Cambrian, geologically, is 450 million years ago. And again, by looking at these different time periods, and these different time periods are identified by scientists throughout the world. And the little trilobite is a really interesting fossil because it appears 450 million years of geologic time completely developed. There are no rock formations known at this time that show the different stages of growth. And we know that this isn't the way life forms are. Okay.
Did you tell the kids, did you tell the students about this? Or you don't want
We haven't told them about the book.
to- Would you like to? Or?
Yeah.
This is really neat, guys. It has a lot of great pictures, too, which
It's
I
that
love.
wife backing that you get, that you don't forget these things. So I guess some of you recognize this book, I should say, new book. This is the second edition of All That Remains. And in this book, it not only talks about the early history of man, but there's over 180 pictures of the archaeology of West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and other areas. And again, it's very helpful in identifying things that you or anyone may find. Because, again, there are many photographs and a lot of information in this little book.
So it's kind of like a reference or a resource book that they could use to refer to if they found an object that they really didn't know what it was.
Yes, it has served a lot in that way. And it is a very detailed book on the archaeology of West Virginia. Okay. This is a group of pieces of clay that are now stone. These were used in the early 1800s in the manufacture of stoneware pottery. And the stoneware pottery here in the southwestern part of Pennsylvania, northern part of West Virginia, again, were made in the early 1800s, that these are representative of. And Janessa here, Janessa Piles, has been involved in this project with me. And one of the things I think is very important is that these were, again, pieces of clay that are now stone that were shaped by many children working in the pottery factory, not going to school, having to work in the pottery factory. It's like when I was growing up, my parents would say, you better study because you don't want to end up in the coal mines. And so I'll let Janessa explain to you as to what these do represent and what they're being used for?
Well, basically what I'm doing, I'm working with Mr. Pyle in the mentorship program at Morgantown High School. And that's a program where the student chooses a mentor and works with them on a project of their choice. And I'm working with these pottery pieces. And with the pieces, there are people's fingerprints on here. And after you wash the pieces, and
that's a major part of the job.
After you have to wash them and clean them up with soap and water. Well, just water.
Yeah.
And then you can cover the fingerprints with latex, and from the latex you can get the print onto paper, and find out information about the people who worked with the pottery pieces. So. Yes,
and. Most likely their fingerprints are not on file anywhere with any of the authorities, but we could certainly maybe compare the fingerprints to someone that does have their fingerprints on file. But and again, the size of these little clay standoffs, that's what this particular one's called, and they were placed in along the side of the pottery jugs to help support the handles, to keep the handles from collapsing when the pottery pieces would be fired in a kiln. And again, as you can see, it would be very difficult for me because of the size of my hands, but Vanessa, you're pretty close. That I guess that was why children were really contributors to the pottery industry and making these special little clay standoffs. This is the rock shelter that's featured in the Mason-Dixon Historical Park Museum. There are many rock shelters throughout northern West Virginia, but the James C. Chips rock shelter is the oldest in northern West Virginia. It's about 6700 BC, and this is based on the various type LeCroix projectile points that was recovered from the early excavation that I conducted in 1972. Mr. Chips was very instrumental in saying that the history of that rock shelter was preserved. And here at the Park Museum, we have again, the Chips rock shelter. When this was built, and it was built with the help of school students and children that live across the road from the Mason-Dixon Park. Also, we wanted it to be a multiple teaching unit, a learning unit, not just a display. Students will participate in some of the programs that we have where they will come and they will learn the disciplines of archaeology and actually conduct a dig or an excavation within the floor area of the rock shelter. We have a special type of soil that's placed in here in which artifacts will be positioned, and again the students will learn those archaeological disciplines in recovering information, because when you excavate a site you destroy a site, and so it's important that we teach all of the technologies that we can in the proper method of recovering information. Also on the back, on the sidewall of the shelter, this is a replica of the Wyoming County petroglyph, which contains Ogham. This is one of the finest examples that we have in West Virginia. The Cook site is the second most example, and the Boone County Horse Creek petroglyph is the third best example of the Ogham that is found in southern West Virginia. I also have in the roof part of the rock shelter here featured stalactites, because in West Virginia we have approximately 5,000 unexplored caves. And the rock formation can also represent some of the features that we do have in many of these caves and caverns. And again, this is a multiple teaching unit, so it's not limited just to as a rock shelter or an excavation unit. Okay. This is a table that has a variety of crystals, and this particular crystal cluster is from Jesseville, Arkansas. I would go to Arkansas as often as I could because I really enjoyed the fine crystal and rock and mineral specimens. And around Jesseville, Mount Ida, I have really enjoyed myself, and also allowed me to collect and share with many of the hundreds of students that I have worked with, because we do a rock and mineral identification program. And in that program, students get to retain anywhere from 8 to 10 rocks and minerals, and including the Arkansas crystals. The table here again represents various time periods of the Earth's history. This is a large slab of rock that contained many of the plant fossils that were responsible for the coal deposits, not only in West Virginia but many other states, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Ohio. And it's really amazing that on this rock with the plant impressions, plant fossils, every vein of every petal is so well preserved. In the field of paleobotany, can help, again, let us know what life was like 275 to 300 million years ago of geologic time. Again, we have another slab that has a variety of shell fossils. Whoever comes to visit the museum are allowed to touch the specimens that are on the table. We ask them not to pick them up because if you happen to drop one, you could sure make one of your toes bigger than the other, so we don't want to have that happen. So we ask them to please leave them on the table. But again, as you can see, the rock here is totally composed of little brachiopods, little crustaceans that lived 300 to 400 million years ago of geologic time. This is one of those layers that I pointed out to the students can represent what time was like. And I thought, as the students are learning about the rocks and minerals, and I thought, if we, as teachers, instructors, if they learn to remember one rock, then we've done our job. If they learn just one. And this is the one I've chosen for them to really remember, because this is a piece of calcite that contains hydrogen sulfide gas. And when you scratch it or break it, it smells like rotten eggs. So it definitely is remembered. So calcite is well known. In the iron ores, we have a variety of iron ores. Looks like a large meteorite, and sometimes they're referred to as false meteorites. And it is very heavy, and it is an iron ore. The large cephalopods, some of these cephalopods grew to a diameter of 8 feet. This one in particular is from Lake Texoma. And the petrified wood. And again, as you point out to the students that this is something that once lived, that's now stone. And you explain that when this tree was living, and then it died, it fell into a swamp-type environment and and absorbed the water within the swamp. The water contained minerals and replaced the structure of the wood. So we have a total mineral replacement. This is the same process that happens with bones, like dinosaur bones, fish bones. Total mineral replacement. This is a large stalagmite. And finally, there are laws that protect our caves and caverns now. This is one that happened to be drug out and deposited outside on a hillside. And I recovered it and brought it here to the museum so people could learn about them and realize that they do need to be protected, because it takes approximately 100 years per square inch for a stalactite or a stalagmite to form. On the back side here is a very large boulder of flint. This is one of the stones that was chosen by early man to shape tools. And I was just recently in the mountains in southern West Virginia and discovered this little chunk of flint. And this is what is known as a core platform. The Indians, or the prehistoric people, would hit the top platform and cause these blades to spall off, which we call microblades. And again, as you can see how tapered or cone-shaped the piece of flint is, again, identifies it as a core platform with microblade extractions. This is from the early tool makers. This is what I look at in identifying the time periods as to the technique, the method used in producing stone tools. Because early man was interested in a tool that would be shapeable and very sharp, and a tool that could be resharpened. So in flint, you could re-nap it. It's called napping, it's fracturing, and it will become very, very sharp. If you try to take a knife blade like this of flint and rub it on a rock, it will readily dull it. It's just like a piece of glass. If you take a piece of glass and it's broken and it has a very sharp edge, and you rub that glass on a piece of stone, it will dull that piece of glass very readily. But if you re-break the glass, it becomes, again, very, very sharp and a useful tool. We also have some of the fossils. The fossils can tell us, again, what life once was like. It's like this is our West Virginia State gemstone, which is a coral. It's called Lithrostrotionella, and it's found in mostly central southern West Virginia. And this particular coral had to have sunlight, so we know that the water was no more than 300 foot deep because of the sunlight needed for the growth of this type of coral. So again, by looking at the fossil content of a rock strata can help us again better understand life as it was long ago. Okay, I had the honor and the privilege in visiting Ireland in August with Mike Baker from Falls Church, Virginia, PBS Station 53. Mike and PBS sponsored me in going to Ireland to look at the stones that we refer to here as Ogham. There they refer to it as Ohm. It's also pronounced as Ogham. One of the important, I guess, parts of the mission was to see what is the similarities, what is the differences as to the Ogham petroglyphs that we identify or believe to be in southern West Virginia and that to Ireland. And in the Book of Ballymote, this is a card that I purchased from them in Ireland, in Dublin, at the Royal Irish Academy, where the book is kept. This is the Book of Ballymote that shows all of the examples known of the Ogham alphabet, and it's approximately 150 varieties. The Ogham alphabet is a very complex group of markings, and I see so many similarities from the Book of Ballymote to that in southern West Virginia. In southern West Virginia, we have what we call the Wyoming County petroglyphs. The latest one was the Cook site. It's located near Oceana, West Virginia. There at that site, there is a symbol that is known as a boat rebus. This rebus is very similar to a boat rebus that I viewed while in Fornox, Ireland. I often think about the similarities, and I think this may be the connection to West Virginia to Ireland, Ireland to West Virginia. I think that the same disciplines that were used in marking the ohm in Ireland is the same discipline that was used in southern West Virginia. I have researched petroglyphs in West Virginia, Kentucky, Virginia. This is my 15th year, and I've always been looking for as many examples and illustrations that could be compared to the known record in Europe. But I went to Ireland with the attitude that I want to see what the difference is, because there must be a difference. And I got there, and I went to Tralee, and there was my first ohm stones to view. There were 6 of them. And one of the ohm stones that most impressed me was the cigar-shaped stone. And this is a picture of the cigar-shaped stone that came from the Dingle Peninsula. As Isabel Bennett, an archaeologist there in Ireland, had indicated that the Dingle Peninsula is the only place so far that the cigar-shaped stones come from. I showed her a picture in All That Remains of a drawing of a stone very similar to the one that we had that we were viewing here in Ireland. It even had the cross on the end of it, and this is the one that I have that's referred to as the Fraser stone. Mr. Fraser from Moundsville, West Virginia, had brought this to me when I was doing a program at the Delphin Running Museum in Moundsville, and said, "I think this is important to your work." And that was 10 years ago. And he was right. It is a very important artifact, mainly because of its similarities. And again, it's just unbelievable that the cross and the other markings and the C-shaped marks, again, are featured in the Book of Ballymote. And again, this is a page out of the Book of Ballymote of 1360. One of the other interesting stones is this stone, this circular stone that has a carving of what I refer to as a Maltese cross. It has been enhanced so that you could view it as the markings have been carved on the stone. On the opposite side are 13 marks. These stones, these circular type stones, may be calendar stones. And again, the Maltese cross is a very important symbol, and especially that in Ireland. There on Mount Brandon, as St. Brendan made his pilgrimage to the top of the mountain, stopped, and this was a place where they had worshipped. And on that Ogham stone or Ohm stone is carved a Maltese cross. And there's many crosses of this type throughout the There are many crosses throughout the British Isles, there and especially in Ireland. It's another stone. This is a tablet that was found in Marietta, Ohio, by Mr. Plachetti. And again, it contains a variety of marks that resemble Ogham. Also, on the other end of the stone has a group of markings that is referred to by me as dyad triogham. And this is a very complicated form of the Ogham alphabet. Again, in archaeology, we look for artifacts that can be associated with pictographs, petroglyphs, and we have been very fortunate in recovering many artifacts with, again, the similar marks as to what has been carved and identified as Ogham in Europe. This is a stone. It's a cigar-shaped stone, and one of the things that Isabel pointed out is that the cigar-shaped stones have what they refer to as an imaginary stem line. In the book of Ballymote, it does not illustrate or dictate as to how ogham is to be used. Traditionally, it appears along parallel lines, groups of markings above and below a line that we refer to as a stem line. This is what I look at, is those areas that have produced stem lines and those that have imaginary stem lines. And again, the only imaginary stem lines that I've viewed are the ones that are in Ireland. This little handheld size cigar-shaped stone has what I refer to also as an imaginary stem line. Again, after 15 years of research and exploring in the mountains of West Virginia, Kentucky, Virginia, I just conclude that I don't see a difference in the markings in Ireland compared to those in southern West Virginia. I believe the same type tools were used, and I think that during Tim Severin's transatlantic voyage in 1976, as he indicated, that tools that were made of iron rusted and broke, and they had to revert to the traditional way of making tools of stone or bone and wood. I believe that gold, silver, and copper, those element type minerals, would have survived the transatlantic voyages too. So other than looking, I think that we have to eliminate the fact that and give up the idea that we're going to find tin whistles, because again, they're just not going to survive. But I think that it's just like missionaries today. When they go into a foreign area and they know their mission is to Christianize the people of that area, that they don't just introduce change right away. They don't say, well, okay, fellas, throw those stone axes away, we're going to use these metal ones. I think that it's slowly introduced, and I think that that's what the petroglyphs tell me, that this is an example, because the scribes, the hermit priests that I believe that were responsible for some of these markings and these symbols, carved onto stone so that the natives would see that this is magic. This is something that they've never seen before, and so that gets their attention. Plus, it tells them that this person is learned and is able to convey it through writing on stone. So I will continue to investigate and explore the mountains and hope to see more evidence as to the type of tools that were used in carving this. Most of all the petroglyphs. It's unfortunate in Ireland is that it's mostly based on speculation, and there has been very little controlled archaeology done on the Ogham sites, and this is something that we lack also in North America, is that it takes a tremendous amount of funding and time, and this is, I guess, something that we'll accomplish at some point. So I guess that's about it, I guess. But it is really fascinating that you have a group of markings, and one of the things that really sets it apart is the Christian religious symbols from any Native American or prehistoric American. And I choose the term prehistoric American because these are the ancestors of all mankind. And this is the area that I'm involved with, because I think by carbon datings, with the DNA analysis that we have available, there's a lot of technology that we can apply to the discoveries that come about. So,
Did you find the Irish consulate and others helpful while you were in Ireland on your mission there?
most were. Most were. You were really putting me on the spot. But that's all right. But it was really true. Dr. Wren from Galway was very skeptical about the Ogham in North America. And I asked Dr. Wren, I said, have you seen the dingus petroglyph? And he said, no, what's that? And I happened to have a couple of slides with me of the dingus petroglyph that show the markings on the corner edge of the stone, which could be vials. And he looked at them, and we departed that day and met up again, and about 2 days later, and the first thing he said to me, he said, Robert, can I see those pictures again? And I said, you may see them and you may even have them. He said, we must exchange addresses.
That's good.
So I think that it's something that I hope that they'll maybe get used to, is that St. Brendan did leave a message here. Not just to take. How could you go on a trip of that length of time and not want to leave a message for someone? And I think that's what these petroglyphs are. These are the message from a time long ago. So.
Well, thank you for sharing your trip with us.
Thank you very much. Okay. You can acquire the book through me, Robert L. Pyle, 1964, Negley Avenue, Morgantown, West Virginia, 26505, and also through the Shepherd's Chapel in Gavitt, Arkansas, through Dr. Arnold Murray. At this time, these are the two areas that the book is being handled through. And I would appreciate your support and hope that you enjoy it. Thank you.